Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast that you'd think just discovered the existence of Fire Emblem based on how quickly we're blowing through them. Welcome to the podcast, I'm David Lloyd, and this episode is another one of our RPG game clubs where the Thirsty Mage community plays through a game together and we have a nice fun chat about our experience. The game in question for this episode is Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia Echoes, the only Fire Emblem game included in our top 25 games of the last 25 years. And so we're going to find out right now if the folks in our community share that opinion that Shadows of Valentia is the best Fire Emblem game. Joining us from our Discord community is one of our OG supporters, Rich.
I think you got the name wrong. It's Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia.
Oh, see, this is what happens when you're six Fire Emblems deep in the last 2 months.
Yeah. Well,
Echo.
Two subtitles.
Oh, it's not. Is it really Shadows of Valentia? Or Echoes of Valentia?
No,
it's with me, aren't you?
The Echoes is first. Yeah.
Echoes was going to be a sub-series of remakes.
Yeah. It's okay. We'll forgive you.
From here on in, I'm just going to call it Valentia, and we should be okay.
There you go.
Yep. And also joining us is enjoying this Fire Emblem renaissance and patiently waiting for us to get to engage. It's Daniel.
G'day. Patiently waiting for that, and fingers crossed for we can do the real Fire Emblem game, codenamed Steam, later on.
Oh yeah. One day it's on the list. It's funny. I remember a few years ago when, like, right before the death of the 3DS, there was I remember a lot of talk of codename Steam, especially because I remember, like, when I joined NWR right after the Switch launch, this game actually was what came out for the 3DS, and I wonder if Nintendo realized how quickly the 3DS was going to be buried into obscurity after the Switch came out, because it was very quick. I feel like from the point of, like, the Switch launch to the point where nobody cared about the 3DS.
Is that why I didn't play this game? Because it came out right when the Switch came out.
Yeah, well, it came out like a few months after, I believe.
Yeah, there was
that explains it.
We had the Switch reveal event, and they teased Fire Emblem Warriors, and then, hey, there's going to be a new direct, like a Fire Emblem only direct, a week later, and it was Shadows of Valentia, Warriors, and the mobile game was shown off. And I think Three Houses was teased.
Yeah, so this, in North America, this came out on May 19th, 2017, so it would have been 3 months after the Switch launch.
Okay, yeah. There you have it.
And I remember people talking about it and being like, "Oh, this sucks because, like, no one's going to play this or buy this because it's 3 months after the Switch came out."
Well, I didn't want to start it until I'd finished Fire Emblem Conquest.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then what's the Revelations?
Yeah, that was Revelations was the DLC, right? For the Fates.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was it's funny. The 3DS has just got tons of Fire Emblem options, and then even more so if you consider, like, you could play Shadow Dragon on your 3DS with the 2D or the DS cartridge. So the 3DS is kind of like I would say it'd be the main console for Fire Emblem, really.
Did they add any GBA Fire Emblems for the Ambassador people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
I'd need to open up my 3DS to check, and then music would start playing. It may have been the second one, and then, you've also got codename Steam, and then also, if you want to get super. And then Fire Emblem Warriors also came out on 3DS, the Muso game, and then also Project Cross Zone 2 had Crom and Lucina in it as characters. So if you need more tactical action for your Fire Emblem people, that's there.
Yeah, well,
yeah. So if you like Fire Emblem and you had a 3DS, you were eating good.
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess some more information on Shadows of Valentia. So it's again one of the obviously developed by Intelligent Systems, like we said, 2017. So it's the technically 15th installment of Fire Emblem, but this is the remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, which is the second entry into the series, the NES game. It's just a little background on the story. There's two protagonists in this game, Alm and Celica, and you basically like they're childhood friends that are fighting together, like sort of together, I guess, as we'll get into when we get into the weeds here. But essentially, the two of them are working together to bring peace to Valentia, which is in a war because of the opposing dragon goddesses, I guess, Mila and Duma. It's funny. I started writing down Grima in all of the notes until I double checked, and I'm like, oh no, that's the awakening dragon god. So, so yeah, it's this is again. We were joking before recording that once you've played about 5 or 6 Fire Emblems within a 2-month span, they all start bleeding together. But
because most normal people don't do that, though.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not. I'm not one of these people that spaces things out. It's just like, you know what? I'm enjoying myself. I'm going all in.
Like, I just put like 40 hours into Yakuza, and I'm planning on starting Yakuza 0 in a week, and I'm like, maybe I should give these very similar games some space so they can breathe a bit, but no.
Maybe.
This is why I've never tried cocaine, because it would be a downhill slope very quickly. Yeah, but we'll start with our Fire Emblem history. Like Rich, you had mentioned this was one that you had never played, but I think you played most of the Fire Emblem games, right?
Well, I mean, probably not. It's a pretty long series, and a good chunk of them never even came to the West. But I started with Awakening and played all of the real Fire Emblem games ever since then, except for this one. Somehow skipped it.
And on what kind of how did this one go overall for you? Is it one of the better ones you played, or how's it
I think
ranked?
so. Yeah. No, it's definitely one of the better ones. I quite liked it. It kind of felt like they simplified a lot of stuff that was maybe too complicated in some of the other Fire Emblem games that I played. So the streamlining, I think, was nice overall. So yeah, we can go more into more detail about some of the mechanics and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely up there for me.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a recurring theme in this episode is the simplification of Fire Emblem seems to really bring out its how good it is. So, and how about you, Daniel? We know you've played plenty of the fake Fire Emblem games, but how many of the real ones? You played them all too, right?
So my history of Fire Emblem dates back to picking up a copy of Super Smash Bros. Melee and wondering who the heck are these guys with swords you unlock after a while. I did pick up the Blazing Blade when that came out on GBA because, I was fresh off the N64 and looking forward to actually playing RPGs outside of Quest 64. But I didn't get super far in it because just the whole permadeath thing I struggled so much with that and just got frustrated with having to restart battles because I don't want all my friends to die. I skipped the Wii and GameCube one, but then I remember being really excited for Awakening when that got shown and just seeing everything about it because it was like a year delay from that coming out in Japan. But yeah, Awakening was my first one I really got into. Thank you, casual mode. And just love that. And then played Birthright when that came out. But then just because of the way Birthright is with the 3, Fire Emblem Fates Birthright with the 3 different stories, I didn't really want to play any of the other ones until I played more of that, which never happened. And then I played better games like Codename Steam and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and here we are. I love those two games, but I'd always wanted to get back into. I remember being really excited when Shadows of Valentia got shown because I really dig the look of it, but just never got around to it because it came out the same time as the Switch came out, so I just sort of moved on from 3DS stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I guess technically my first game was Fire Emblem Awakening because when I went to play it, I discovered that I already owned the game, and and when I put it in my 3DS, it told me that I was 6 hours in, which I'm gonna go ahead and assume it's not lying to me, but I have zero memories of ever purchasing Awakening or ever playing Awakening. So I would say my first official experience with the franchise would be Three Houses. When that came out in 2019, I played through the two of the routes and really enjoyed it. Apparently not enough to play any other Fire Emblem games because years have gone by, and I got into the GBA this year, and that was when I got into the Blazing Blade, or I guess Fire Emblem 7, depending on how you want to name it. But just I absolutely love that game. And then I was like, oh, this series seems like fun. Maybe I'll play a few more. So since then, I've played Path of Radiance, which is the weird GameCube game you mentioned. Fire Emblem Awakening, I played it for real this time. So I got to the end of that one, and then just this week I finished Shadow Dragon, and which is the DS one, and is the remake of the original Fire Emblem game. So that was pretty neat to play. And then we got the Valentia now. So I'm six. I've completed 6 Fire Emblems, 5 of which since mid February, and then I'm working on Birthright. I'm about halfway through that one. So just tearing through this series like it was going to be taken away forever, put back in the Disney Vault or something. You never know with Nintendo though, so you gotta.
It's a series that's almost died once at least. Like Awakening was the famous story that was the series' last chance to sort of really break through, which is why they went all in on that. And thankfully, it just was one of those games that just hit at the right time on the right system to sort of explode, and then resulted in like Three Houses just being absolutely massive after that.
Oh yeah, like Three Houses, I think doubled like the best selling that Fire Emblem game ever. Much to Casey's chagrin because he hates Three Houses. So
I remember I didn't get around to that when it came out, and I do want to sort of go back to it, but I mean I'm worried it's going to be a bit like me and Persona, whereas when I play RPGs I want to do more of just the exploring and the combat and all that stuff, whereas Three Houses from the outside seems to be very much on the social aspect, which that just seems like busy work. I want to hit stuff with a sword.
Yeah, a lot of hours devoted to schoolwork. It's funny that in that game you like they make this person a professor, the protagonist, even though she has like never met, or he or she, I guess, depending on who you pick. The protagonist, I think, has like had no contact with the outside world except for the one guy. And then like, what would be a good idea? Make this person a teacher. And then somehow they allow you to have 3, like the 3 classrooms. I remember on my second playthrough, I had every single person that could possibly leave their own class to come to my class. It was basically, there was 2 classes of 2 people, and then I had like 40 something in mine, which is kind of funny in retrospect. So yeah, it's a weird one, but no, like for Valentia, it's all meat and potatoes. There's no romance. No relationship building. You don't have to worry about that stuff. There's a lot of just sticking to the basics and kind of just doing a good job with them, I think. There's a few additions to the game that we haven't seen. I don't think we've seen before or even seen after, in respect to like dungeon crawling and that sort of thing. But I guess it would be a good time to get into Valentia's.
It also doesn't have that the because all the ones since Awakening have had that what's the word for it? Like character insert, that blank slate character that's basically you.
Yep.
Like
Oh
Robin
yeah,
in Awakening,
Oh
and
yeah, like Robin and Corinne.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Whereas this
that's
is
true. Didn't even
much
think of
more
that.
of a protagonist-driven story about you're playing the story of Ulm and Celica.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's it's
assume,
funny.
yeah, I
Oh, go
assume
ahead.
that's just because it's a remake of an older
Oh yeah,
game, and they just didn't do those character inserts until recently, right? Like the player insert
Well,
characters. I think Awakening, right? Was that the first one?
I
yeah.
think Awakening is the first one, yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah, it's Marth in the first game, Almond Celica in the second game. I know, I think it's Martha's in the third game, and then we were laughing at the funny names in the fourth game, and then there was I'm not sure about there's a couple in between there, but then yeah,
Well, there's
Blazing
like
Blade, there was like three different heroes. There was like Lynn, uh Hector. No, Hector's the axe guy. He's like
Roy,
the post game. I don't think it's Roy. It's like Roy's kid or something, or Roy's grandkid.
Elwood.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. How do I know that?
I don't know. Well, you played the game.
Yeah, well,
That's a
I
good
don't
memory.
know. I don't.
That's great
It
muscle
just
memory
well, no,
there.
because
Just kicks
that's
in.
the one that didn't even come out of Japan. I just
No,
must
no.
have
Elwood
picked it up.
is Elwood is the first GBA game, the Blazing Blade.
Oh, okay, because I just remember Lynn. I always thought Lynn was the main character of that one.
Well, Lynn was the main character in the first 10 chapters, and then
Okay,
in chapters 11 to 25 it switches to Elwood, and then but
okay.
Lynn joins around chapter 15 or chapter 14, something around there.
I haven't played
Um
that game in 20 years.
yeah. And then Hector, and Hector is with Elwood, and so there's like the three heroes are basically together from like chapters 14 to the end, and then you can replay chapters 11 through 25 but as Hector, and you kind of it's like a kind of a different perspective of the same story. So it's kind of a neat concept there. But yeah, I prefer this where it's like I don't need to insert myself in as like an avatar. Like
Hmm.
I like having like a set story. I think I find it better anyway. I like having
yeah.
this very structured story, and you know they're telling it in a way that like you don't have to build the relationships with other characters. It's like they already have the relationships and you're watching them kind of build. Like it's neat to
Hmm.
see Almond Celica. You know, you start in this game of Valentia where they're together at the beginning as like children, and then I guess what are the countries again? There's so the country that Almond Celica start in Mila's country. I'm trying to remember what it's called. Oh, so Zovia. So Almond, Celica, and Sophia, they're kind of hiding out in this country, village or whatever, and Rigel is the country of Duma, and so Rigel is like invading Sophia. So they kind of get split up, and then there's like a time skip where they become older now, and they're kind of building their own group of characters on either side. So it's neat in this as that like chapter, I guess act one of this game you're playing as Ulm, and then act two of the game you play as Celica, and then from act three through act five, it's up to the player to decide like, okay, what order am I going to go in. There are some gates along the way where you can get so far as one party, but then you have to wait for the other party to catch up to kind of unlock progression and that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
it's pretty neat to kind of see them, the relationship there. But it's even though they're not together, you can see like Alm building these relationships with his party, but then there's like these magical connections between them, and then to see them come together at the end, I think is they do a really good job of telling us, like showing the story, even though like you have some control over how you're kind of consuming it, I guess.
And they do a good
yeah,
way of
and
teasing
it's
them coming. Oh,
oh, Sorry,
No,
I was
you
just
go.
going to say it's cool how there's a few places where things that you do in one side of the story affect the other side of the story. Like Alm's upgrade class, whatever that's called, I can't remember anymore. You can only get that after you've done certain actions in Celica's story.
Mm-hmm.
And also how like at the end of chapter 2, they basically tease the parties coming back together, but then they fight for the dumbest of reasons, and then we're going our separate ways. So they sort of do drag that out, to which I don't think they ultimately deliver properly on the two parties coming back together. It just feels like a bit of a throwaway thing at the end.
Yeah, because I guess
Yeah.
they break up because Celica is kind of a pacifist and doesn't. I guess it's one of those things where like Alma's very much like, the only way to stop the war is to win the war, and Celica is we shouldn't have to fight to stop the war, and I guess at the end of the day, like Alm's viewpoint of the world, I guess, ends up being the right one to a certain extent because uh at the end of the day, the real problem in the world is Duma, the kind of evil dragon, I guess. And it's not until they defeat the dragon that peace can come to the land. But it is neat that some of the protect or the antagonists in the game, like some of them are just kind of evil dicks, but others seem like they're evil, and then you kind of see the motivations as you get through the game, and then realize like some of them that seemed to be evil weren't necessarily all that evil. Like
What was the guy who basically killed his girlfriend or whatever? He
Oh yeah, I was
sacrificed
just
oh
her
thinking of him.
into the fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
that was the saddest
yeah,
part of the game, I think. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, what are you
yeah. I think so.
fucking
Yeah, yeah,
this poor girl like supported him the whole game. It gave him outs at every turn. Every time he lost a battle, like she was there to say like, just because you lost to Alm doesn't mean you're a failure. Like you're good, buddy. And he's like, no, no, no. That's not good
yeah,
enough for me. And then to the point where he ends up murdering them both because he's a doofus. Like,
yeah. Uh,
yeah,
Berkut, that was his name.
yeah, Berkut.
And yeah, yeah, Renea.
Yeah, Renea was the real hero
Poor
of
Renee.
this game.
It's just because you walk in on him like throwing her into a fire, don't you? And you're like, what
Yeah.
the heck? Dude,
Yeah.
chill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah.
glad that Alm and his party were like very clear on like I can't believe we have to do this to this poor girl. Like she does not deserve this. But like Berkut, like we'll gladly like crush your head in. That's fine. You're a dummy.
Yep.
Yeah. That battle too was not the hardest in the game, but not easy. It
I had
was
fun with that one. Yeah, it was a good one.
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I can't really remember the battles. They all sort of fade together
Yeah, well, this is
for me.
so. I guess we'll get into the battle mechanics of this one because I do feel like this is kind of like pinnacle Fire Emblem for me because first of all, no weapon degradation. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically, like you can get new weapons and you get better weapons, and then you can forge them to be better. But you never have to worry about not having a weapon on the battlefield, which is great. The magic users, you don't run out of tomes. It's all about HP, which I think is a neat mechanic
Yeah.
in the sense of like you really have to put a lot of strategy into. If I use this particular spell and it hurts me this much, does it leave me open to die in when it's the enemy's turn? So I think there's a lot of risk reward factors that go into that, which makes it really neat. It also like so you can't spam like the really powerful spells like unless you have a healer that's like right there to kind of re-energize them. I think that's pretty neat.
And even then, magic's not super overpowered. It's not like
No,
you'd be using
yeah,
it to win games, matches.
yep. No weapon triangle. I was surprised by that. There was, I think, It was hard to tell if there was like certain weapons that did a little bit better than others, but there was no like clear cut like rock paper scissors. I don't think in this game.
I mean, bows are
No.
always going to be better versus like flying stuff. I
Yeah, they
think,
had that kind of
Yeah.
like weaknesses, but no like triangle style. I
yeah,
guess.
I
Yeah.
believe maybe spears or something was better against mounted. There was something there that I remember.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
I think that was just a special ability on certain weapons. I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah. That's
they
the other
had those
thing is
sorts of
that's
things.
yeah. They had where like if you used a weapon enough, you could unlock an ability for the weapon with certain
Yeah.
characters. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
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 Then you could upgrade your class at the Mila statues, which was pretty neat. There's no looking for the seals. Like sometimes in some of the Fire Emblems, you could like run out of Master Seals to upgrade your characters. You don't have to worry about that. You just have to make your way down to a Mila statue somewhere.
it's always
Uh,
great when you get to that point where you can. Like, I always look at it like it's like Pokemon. It's just I'm evolving my characters to the next sort of level,
Yeah.
yeah,
and then you just get
Exactly.
this big power boost. I was the only one playing with the DLC, wasn't I?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I thought
So
that was pretty neat because
yeah,
you had a whole new class for
oh
all the
yeah.
characters that none of us did.
They
Yeah.
give you overclassing, which just makes them like you. The way that works, because with normal class levels, you only need to get them up to like I don't know level 9 or 10 or something. To overclass, you then need to get to level 20, which is a slog for a lot of the characters. But when you get there, you've just got these like you know the end battles just become a bit trivial. You're just sort of running through stuff. But I mean, that's the way I play my RPGs. I'll grind till I'm like can just
Hey,
you know.
if you earn the right to bulldoze your way through the end, then you deserve it.
I spent 200 hours leveling up all my characters in Xenoblade 2. The final boss deserved to die in 2 minutes.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's my opinion. If you
All
put in the
built up
work,
to.
you deserve the rewards.
I just love it. They're all, oh, he's the big, he's a big villain. He's going to kill us all. He's going to crush us and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
just go. You're done.
Yep. There's nothing better than moonwalking through a final
Mm-hmm.
battle. No permadeath well, I guess you have the choice of no permadeath in this game. For anyone who hasn't played, thinking about going into this game, I would highly recommend playing casual because they're
Yeah.
with the limited number of characters you have in the parties. Like I don't know how you would be getting past some of these end missions if you were missing like 3 or 4 of your characters. Like I'm sure maybe you could do it. Like maybe some characters become more powerful, but to me, like I felt like I needed everyone I had in the end. So it'd be
Yeah.
rough. And then I'm with Daniel on the sense of like it's hard to play Fire Emblem and have let anyone die. Like I'm a restart the mission kind of guy too. I'm like, oh, did Chucky over there just die? Because there's no way I'm continuing on without him. So
I think
Yeah.
because where I come from with probably more getting into my history of strategy games, I was never really into turn-based strategy growing up. I was like you, David, more into RTS and real-time strategy, where you're basically just Zerg rushing the enemy. You're just throwing everything you've got. If they die, whatever. But you can rebuild next mission. And because I would have played the first Fire Emblem after playing Advanced Wars, which is a lot like that. You're just spamming your units. Um, so I can see how people could play it on permadeath mode. You guess you just need to be accepting that you're going to lose some people along the way, which is war, I guess. And then like also the other thing is because I play in casual, but to reverse that, then I'll put the game difficulty up to hard mode. So I don't want to make it a total cakewalk for myself. He says as he then goes to overlevel every character, so it's a cakewalk. But I've got that, I like just having the enemies can hit back. I'm still going to lose people in the mission, so there is still a chance I could and I'm pretty sure there was at least 2 missions I did fail on and had to restart. One of which was the last mission, which I did not like because that was very long.
yes.
But yeah, I just couldn't imagine myself playing one of these games without casual because it stressed me out too much when I was playing the GBA one. That's why I couldn't finish it. I got to a mission and I just couldn't figure out how to proceed and not lose most of my army. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, if I lose most of my army, I'm not going to be able to finish the game. And the problem with RPGs is because, they can take 30, 40, 50 hours. I don't want to be 30 hours into a game and then go, well, this save state's ruined. I have to start again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then I don't even think there was that many save states, like like in the Fire Emblems, I find they don't give you enough. They only give you like 3
Yeah.
spots to save in. And I'm used to playing like a Trails game where I'll have like 120 saves by the end of the game. Because it's like, no, I'm never not saving some. Like there's no replacing saves if you have the choice, because you never know when you might have to go back.
That said, this game did give you the ability to rewind turns. And I'm pretty sure that was in the normal mode as well. So there is a way around it. You can you can go back to just rethink what you've done and all that. You get a limited amount, but it's a cool feature.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's in. I haven't noticed it in any of the other ones.
I think it was new for this.
Yeah, it's definitely in some of the other ones.
Was it in 3 Houses?
I think so. I think that had the rewind.
Yeah, that I was just thinking. Like, I remember playing one, and it must have been 3 Houses because it wasn't anything I played recently. So,
yeah.
Well, and one of the other things that's unique to this game is the dungeon crawling. I don't recall there being dungeon crawling in any of the other Fire Emblems either, where it goes from. The way this game works is that you have an overworld map where you're walking around and you're choosing. Which missions to take on the map, but there's also spaces where you'll get to like a cave and then it'll switch to this 3D mode, which is it's not really an action RPG per se, but you're controlling the character and you're running through a dungeon and enemies will be on there and you can hit them, but that basically just triggers kind of a mini combat, I guess, with like a very small arena. And one of the things I always forgot to do was that in these mini missions, only the first 10 characters are actually go into battle. So you have to actually choose. Yeah. I think there's 15 in each party. So you have to make sure that the numbered 10 are the ones you want in these battles, depending on how you want to do it.
What's really fun is that most of the statues to class change are located at the end of these dungeons. So if you go into the dungeon and you haven't moved the person you want to level up into that top 10 spot, you can't level them up. So then you have to go all the way back out to get them to go back in again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun.
I'm pretty sure these dungeons were in the original version. Albeit it would have been like a top down.
But it was hard to tell. Like Yeah, because the original was an NES, so I don't.
Yeah,
they would have been pretty basic if they were there. I know there was the overworld part was there, and that was like new compared to the first one, because the first one was just like they just took you. It was a story, like it's like this mission. There was no overworld. But what do you guys think of that addition? Like obviously something new to the. New to the series or whatever. Like I think Rich, when we were playing, I'm pretty sure you had said you weren't like thrilled with the dungeons.
Yeah, I wasn't thrilled with them. They're fine. They're okay. Yeah, a little bit of a change of pace, and putting the statues in there was sort of neat, I guess. Yeah, I didn't pick up on the whole 10 character limit thing or how to choose my party for the dungeons until, I don't know, I probably ran through 1 or 2 and before I realized what was going on and how to get the characters I actually want in there. But I don't know, maybe I just can't read.
No, I did the same thing. I had no idea until I actually counted the characters in one of those combats and went, "Hey, I'm missing like 4 people. Like, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I did. Well,
I guess early on too, it would have been everybody anyway. Like, it really only affects you when you get up to the 14, 15. So that's why we didn't notice until later in the game.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting how Celica's chapter 5 was basically entirely a dungeon. Or the end of it anyways. The end of her chapter 4, I guess it would have been, because chapter 5 was the unified part, right? I think. Anyways, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
She's got that huge dungeon part at the end where it's just a tons of dungeon fights, some pretty tough stuff in there. But then for Alm, they didn't really do that. I don't know why, but it wasn't quite the sort of dungeon section for him.
Nothing particularly necessary for Alm till the very end, like the last dungeon, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the
Daniel?
dungeons. I didn't mind them at first. I mean, I thought this is again, the way I like to play is to level up and grind. I found those were good spots to do that, and then I started checking out the DLC, and there's a lot of stuff to over level and grind and get gold and stuff in there. I thought, neat diversion. I had a few issues with them, like the map could have been a bit more easily viewed in the dungeons, because I did find, especially some of the bigger ones, you're getting a bit lost and you don't really, because you couldn't see the whole dungeon map. You can only see that zoomed in bit on the bottom screen.
Celica's was the worst for that, because there was literal, like you were in a literal labyrinth when you were switching.
That forest.
And
I
just kept
online
doing circles. Yeah, I had to look it up too, and they're like, go to the northeast or something. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, this is crazy.
But it really, again, I didn't mind it as a fun side sort of diversion to just break up the gameplay. The time I did really start to not like it was the fact that the final chapter is just one big dungeon, and I'm like, this is a bit much, guys. You could have, I would have rathered a few bigger battles than just one big dungeon to explore.
There was a lot of floors to that tower.
Yeah. And a lot of like dead ends and stuff that would send you back to earlier parts without being able to loop back around. So even with a map that I found online, it was still just getting a bit lost.
Well, it's funny. Paige played this game, she got to that tower and then gave up because she's like, it's too long. I'm done.
Because the other problem with dungeons is your party members have they have like a happiness meter.
Fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue.
The fatigue meter.
And that doesn't matter in the normal battles, but in dungeons that is 100% important. So you've got to be keeping an eye on where your party members are. And I'm pretty sure once you're in that big dungeon, you can't openly swap people out. So you're sort of stuck with
that 10.
Which look, if you're just using like the Dread Fighters or whatever they are, that's fine. They will just destroy everything. But
I didn't find the fatigue too bad, because I got so much food throughout the game that was like the only use for the food was just to give them for fatigue. So I was like, I ended up having like way too much food to begin with, so it wasn't too bad. And then in the final dungeon, there's fountains that you can go to that cure everyone's fatigue. I think it was like one per floor, so that, because otherwise I would have been like fuming if you're trying to get up like all those floors and all of a sudden like every character is at 50% health because they're fatigued or whatever, you know.
Did you notice that because I'm pretty sure it lists all the characters' age, and if characters, I don't know if it was under 21 or under 18 or whatever, but if characters were underage, you couldn't give them alcohol to reduce their fatigue.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's neat.
So okay, that's cool. Well played.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah.
Well, giving the alcohol to the Mila statue reduced the fatigue, and what else did it do? It did something else. I can't remember. Do you remember?
I was just giving the statue whatever water or bread. I thought, well, this is the most useless thing. I'll just throw that away.
I was always giving them the top of my item list, whatever it was.
Well, it's a problem I found at the end of the game. I just had too many items.
Yeah, that's true too.
And trying to figure out what to do with everything.
Yeah.
Was there? I don't know about you guys, but I think the toughest mission in the entire game for me was the very final one was pretty tough. We could talk about that one, but the one that gave me the most grief was Fear Mountain, where the witch was hiding out. See, one of the things was I was looking up the recruitment. So you had to go. There's a point in Alm's progression where it's like you can go left to a village or you can go right up Fear Mountain, and you have to go to Fear Mountain first or you can't recruit one of the people in the village.
Yep.
So I think I was a little under leveled, or like the level. It's that mission is just hard regardless. But the way that the mission was set up was that there was like this temple on top of a hill, and you're at the bottom of the hill, and the door to the temple is not at the front. Like you have to go up the hill, around the temple, through the doors, and then you can get get your melee attacks and on. But the problem is that so there's a witch in the temple. There's like 10 priests in the temple. Like 4 of them are spawning gargoyles, and then the other like 6 are healing everyone. And then there's like assassins with longbows, and it was just like, what is like this is insane. I bet, like, no joking, I probably restarted that mission at least 20 times. Like it was crazy. Like it is. I did. Every time I would try, like the first thing I would do is like I was like, okay, I'll just kind of inch towards it. I'll let the gargoyles come to me, and maybe I'll send. I had a longbowsman. I think he was on a horse or something. So I kind of sent him in to try to like snipe people off. But sometimes it would work, and then sometimes like it wouldn't kill them. So then the priest would just heal the guy, and so it was just taking forever. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to hug the wall and try to get everyone up. But then like at one point they put everyone into a straight line so then the gargoyles were picking off my weakest people in the line, and it was just like, oh my gosh. I ended up leaving. I ended up going to a previous save, and then grinding for probably an hour and a bit just to get everyone at a high enough level that they survived that like line around the corner to get into the temple. But it was a doozy. That was easily the hardest one in the game for me.
So what I found with the game, if you sort of notice the way it works, is that the AI of the enemy it'll sort of do 2 things. If there's only one enemy in range, it'll target that. But if there's multiple, it'll always go for the weakest target first, the one that it knows it can sort of kill. So what I was doing, because you had the classes, I don't know the exact word, priests or whatever, priestesses, because they had that ability where they could summon fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those fighters are very weak. So you start summoning them, they just run forward on their own, do whatever. Enemy will always target them first. So basically, missions like that, I was summoning a lot. I'd have my priestess back summoning, healing them so they could do it next turn, and just having this wave of like cannon fodder to just die. And then I'm sort of sending in my Pegasus Knights and long range archers to try and get those, to just try and kill those mages one at a time so they could stop sending gargoyles and all that at me.
Yeah.
But then you get the ones who Yep.
Yeah, I think that's just about the only way to do it. That's how I approach just about every mission after a certain point. Yeah.
Because at a point they started to be more about, especially as you're trying to go into castles and places like that, it's all about trying to manage those choke points and how to actually effectively get your whole army into it. Because I guess instinctively you want your tankiest units up first, but the problem with them is they are very slow. So you just end up with these big bottlenecks of just trying to get all your units into the enemy base.
Yeah. I remember there was another castle later on, or I think it was later on, there was like lava around, like in front of the castle. So you kind of had to walk around the lava and then hug the castle wall. But then they had a bunch of archers that were like firing on me while I was trying to slowly get my people around the corner. And I definitely abused the the light warriors in that one, where it's like, yeah, just send these guys up to like attract the arrows so I can get into this castle.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
But yeah, they're good. I mean, you don't just want everything to be a big open battlefield and trying to think your way through it. Just trying to, I guess, brute force your way through it. Ones like that do require you to think a bit more. I think another one I know a lot of people seem to not like. I didn't mind it as much, but there's one on Celica's Path where it's that the poison bog where you're just taking damage just by being in it.
Oh yeah.
That one's a bit rough.
Yeah, it was a tough one. I think one of the thing about this game though is.
Oh, sorry.
I was
I was
just gonna
gonna
say
say,
that I think with this game, it's the puzzle. Like you almost are attacking these missions as like a puzzle to solve. I think that's why this is like one of my favorite Fire Emblem games, is because it's like they have these weird things like the poison bog or the running uphill, and it's like, okay, like, so how am I, the variety of like, okay, how am I going to tackle this one, you know?
I think that's the good thing about tactical RPGs and games like this in general, is because it's, most RPGs, it's just a big open world story based, try and get to the end and all that stuff. But strategy based games are level based, so you can't just do the same mission over and over again. You've got to have stuff that requires you to think a bit and plan out. And good games like this will know that by a certain point you've gotten your gameplay style in a certain way, and then it's like, cool, you've realized that Pegasus Knights are really good, so the next mission we're going to have nothing but archers. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a good job of that for sure.
Yep.
I was just going to say, I didn't do Fear Mountain first. I went to the town, so I didn't get the character you got from that. So I think that's the only character I missed out on.
Yep, the same thing happened to me. I tried Fear Mountain that way once and got my ass kicked and turned the other way. And ended up missing out on that character. Oh well.
Yeah, he wasn't. I think he was a mage, and he was all right, but I don't even think I had him in my final party in the end. He was just kind of there.
The little girl mage in Celica's route that you can get if you don't kill her, I think at the end of Act 3, something like that. She ends up being really, really good. She was one of my best characters.
Well, one of my favorite characters on Celica's route was the girl that she starts off with, because she, for some of the class, did we get to choose what? I almost feel like you got to choose what class she evolved into, because she ended up becoming like a battle mage, where she was like really good at combat. So I would just like send her in to wail on somebody, and then like as the enemies were coming at her, she could just like do lightning strikes on everybody with her magic.
Are you talking about May?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she's good.
And she's also got I don't really, because again, like one of the problems I have with a lot of Fire Emblem games is there are so many characters, just the personalities sort of blend together and don't really come out. But she stuck with me a bit just because her interaction with some of the other characters, I don't know why, I just found it funny. Just that sort of like really brash, over the top sort of character. I don't know if anyone on Celica's side really had that ability to reclass. I know all of Ulm's villager friends, you could sort of choose which way they went.
Yeah, because I remember I chose one guy was a paladin, like the horse rider, and I think I made one guy a mage and then another an archer.
I'm looking at pictures of them all now. I know I made Grey. Grey ended up being a mercenary. Tobin, I'm pretty sure, was an archer, and Cliff would have been the mage out of the three. And Faye, because she's a girl, only had a choice to be like a wizard.
Yeah, I made her a priest.
Yeah, I skipped the what was it, the first one you mentioned that ends up becoming the Dread Fighter. I missed out on that,
Grey,
unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because Dread Fighter, like looking at the again, I don't know if you got it with the normal game or if it was just something with DLC. You'd get it gave you pitchforks as items, and the way that would work is you could give that to a character and then reclass them back into a villager to loop them again. And reading on strategies online, what people would do is they would just put everyone into the mercenary class, because the mercenary class, when that levels up all the way, you can reclass that back into a villager and then just keep doing that loop over and over again to build their stats up.
Oh my god!
Yep.
Yeah,
I did that once.
Look, we've played RPGs long enough to know that if you're playing a game and you find a way to break the system, you're going to. And people online have found a way to break this and just make these ridiculously overpowered units. So that's probably how they do permadeath mode, is because they just have characters that just can't be hit.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Like, yeah, if I had known that, I would have done that for sure. I
yeah,
had the Dread Fighter on in Celica's route. It was that pirate guy that she meets early
Saber.
on. Yeah, Saber. Yeah, so he was just a beast by the end of the game. He was just
I had
like I
one
just
yeah,
sent him out.
mission on her side where he's just standing in a hallway on his own, and the enemy's just throwing stuff at him, and he's just like taking him down.
Yeah.
I think he eventually went down after like 7 or 8, but I'm just imagining this guy just like fighting
Yeah.
non-stop. And then like
yeah,
with his last breath, he's like, have you got any more? And then just falls to his feet.
Well, it was like the perfect storm of like he had a high dodge, so most of the time the enemy couldn't hit him to begin with, but then he had high HP and then like an insane attack, and yeah, like that's you basically could just send him down a hallway and you're good.
yep,
So
yeah. I did a loop with him, and he could kill anything.
I think in
Yeah,
the final
solo just about
mission,
any map.
yeah, in the final mission, so the way that in the game, the way that you have the two parties on either side, and then when you get to the final mission to fight Duma, uh, they combine, but you don't get to like it's not everybody. You have to choose. I think you choose
Yeah.
like 15. Like I think you only get half of the full game, but it can be like obviously you have to have Celica and all, but then you could just pick the other 13 from either party. And I think I ended up having all but one was like I took all of Alm's party. And the only person, no, sorry, I took two people from Celica's party. I took May, I think was her name, you said, and
Yep.
Saber. Those were the two because they were like it was basically like Celica, May, and Saber were basically just like destroying everyone in every mission I had on the Celica side, and then I think Alm's party just got into more fights, so they naturally leveled up more than Celica's party. So I had like 12 people from Alm, and then these three people from Celica, and yeah, it was an interesting final battle because initially, I can't think of that guy, the wizard, the Duma wizard's name now.
Uh,
Um, but he had this mechanic where only every fourth hit would actually damage him. So you
oh,
had to hit him three
Oh
times.
yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah, you had to hit him three times, and then the fourth hit would land. And so how I ended up tackling that one was I tried to move my party close enough where the archers were shooting. They were doing the first three hits, and then I would try to get someone in. I think I actually sent Ullman to attack on every fourth hit, and because he was spawning the gargoyles too, like on top of being invincible. So it was like he was really annoying me. Um, and that was where the majority of the difficulty in that mission came for me because by the time I got to Duma, like Duma was actually easier than that guy to me anyway.
I didn't even know about that 4 hits thing. I just ignored him. I'm like, because I tried attacking him once. I'm like, okay, he's immortal. Cool, I'll ignore him. He's just summoning these things. He's not really doing me much damage. I'll just make it straight to Duma. It did annoy me, yeah, that they just sort of chuck both those parties together on the last mission. I think that could have really been built up a lot better
Yeah,
because it would have been good to have maybe an alternate viewpoint from Celica's party side as well of them exploring the dungeons, but not having one of those hero classes with them. And then they sort of meet up halfway through and then they sort of team up together. But it's just because you didn't know what works well together.
because one of the things they could have done is they could have both just met at the tower, and then it's like, okay, well, we got to take two parties we got to split into two. Do we want to kind of mix and match at this point? So you could take like a
Yeah.
couple different parties, and then like, well, we'll both meet up at the top of the tower. Um, yeah, and that kind of goes into that whole like uh, story beat with Celica kind of being naive with the oh well, if you allow us to take your powers and kill you, then yeah, we'll leave all alone. We even though our whole plan was to like take over and destroy the world, yes, we'll honor our word and not harm all after you're gone and you have no power. Like it's just such a weird story beat to begin with,
Yes,
and then for
I
her
will
to be like,
believe you.
man, yeah,
I will believe you, blue skin, creepy necromancer guy. Clearly, you have my best of intentions in mind.
yeah,
Of
who has
course.
lied multiple times throughout the game already and not, just like, come on, like this is, like this is like peak GRPG and naivety in this case, but
Oh, the minute they had a silly little 15-minute fight after years of wanting to see each other again, and then they have this fight,
yeah.
and then no, let's go our separate ways. Can we
You
maybe
don't
give it an
understand me at
hour?
all.
Can we maybe
Yeah.
give it a day or two? Just chill.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was for the plot, so
Yep. Story must go on.
yeah.
Yeah. Is there any particular standout moments that we haven't talked about for you guys that we haven't gone over yet? Any
Um,
any memories that will last a little bit anyway? I know we all play so many games, they kind of blur out after a month or two, but
um, I don't know. I think it's the same as all Fire Emblem games. It is sort of the ones that I've played. It's a good game, but it just still. I don't know. Again, it's been so long since I played Fates and Awakening. I still think back on Awakening a lot more fondly than I do of this. But I really did enjoy again, even though my gripes about why they kept them separate, I did enjoy the element of these two stories sort of playing off each other and working together. And I thought that was something I would like to see more games do, where you sort of are playing these two opposite, I mean, not so much opposite sides, but like two party members, two parties on different sides of the world, sort of thing. A bit
yeah.
like you know how Golden Sun and Golden Sun Lost Age were basically two halves of the same story. I did really like that, and I thought that was quite interesting. And the characters are all, I really like Celica as a character. I think she's really cool. I'd like to see more characters like that.
Yeah, I think it's more one of the more developed stories. Like
Yeah.
obviously, the
Hmm.
combat's kind of like the main focal point, but these early Fire Emblem games seem to put a lot of effort into telling a good story, and I think that kind of stands out compared to other games of the series.
Yeah.
Are you gonna play Fire Emblem Gaiden, or have you say it?
No, because this is basically just it's a remake of Gaiden. So
Yeah, no, just to see how different it is.
yeah, like I played the NES Shadow Dragon like the first few missions. And then when I played the actual Shadow, when I played the DS remake of the game, I was like, "This is so much better."
Oh, they're rough.
So,
They are.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like I don't
Yeah.
have the time or the patience for these NES versions. Like,
What I love, they released the NES one on Switch as like a limited time only release, and it had a bunch of quality of life features with save states and rewind, and it also gave you the ability to speed up combat, which is cool. But it also
yeah.
sped up the music, so you're just hearing this like,
Oh,
Oof.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
no.
that'd be
and
rough.
yeah, exactly. I don't mind speed up features; I think it's great, but can you
Yeah,
not mess with the music? I need that, otherwise this is going in the bin.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, just I'd be interested to know because there is lots of it that does feel dated, but it does, I guess, feel modern as well. So I'm curious to know how much of that is from how the game originally was, and how much is just what they've added 20 years after the fact.
yeah. It's neat playing like now because I just finished Shadow Dragon, so it was neat to see the difference between like how they tackle these remakes, and they definitely put a lot more modern things into Valentia compared to Shadow Dragon. Like Shadow Dragon really played like the original, like the Blazing Blade, I guess. Like it had a very traditional feel to it. So yeah, with like when you think of like this dungeons that they've added in, and um, yeah, it just seems like they put a lot more try to make it more modern than they have in the past with these remakes. So like if they end up have, like, I know there's rumors out there about a Genealogy of the Holy War remake. It'll be interesting to see what kind of, like, now that it'll obviously be on Switch too, or I bet you it'll probably be available on Switch as well. But it'll be interesting to see like how far they go with modern changes, especially when you consider like how successful Three Houses was. Like, does that, money is always king. So are they gonna kind of take lessons from that and try to put all these like modern like go even further with the modern changes, or or are they still going to stay more traditional because it's a remake? It's we'll have to see, I guess.
It's a series that's in a funny state because, from what I'm aware, Engage didn't sell as much as they were hoping, I think.
No, they sold about 2 million compared to the 4 million that Three Houses sold.
Yeah,
So
it's a failure then, I mean,
Wow.
Xenoblade fans are happy if it gets over 1 million.
Shut
Which is
them down.
interesting, because,
yeah.
Fire Emblem selling over, like a Fire Emblem game selling over 4 million is just wild to me in any sort of reality. It's just the series that was just sort of always there and didn't really succeed until it did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see how, because Path of Radiance got shown on the sizzle reel for GameCube games on NSO, so I'm curious to know how that's going to be received when that finally comes out.
Yeah, that's a very traditional one. Like it's I would say it plays like the OG GBA Fire Emblem in kind of like that traditional combat style. It just with much more graphics, I guess. Like, with the 3D looking characters and stuff. So, but it plays like that traditional. So it'll be interesting to see. I think people will enjoy it, but I guess it depends on like, I think Three Houses did as well as it did just because it, people at least now I think are into that kind of relationship building, like Persona style. I think that's what kind of attracted people. And I mean maybe the characters too, because like how many Idle Guard things were there when it came out, like that it was all over social media and that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see. Rich, if I know you've made some trips to Japan, if Nintendo allowed you into the office and said, "Hey, we heard you're a Fire Emblem fan. We're working on the next one. What kind of game would you be looking for in a Fire Emblem? What would your answer be to the folks at Intelligence Systems?"
Well, I'd probably scale back a lot on the relationship building stuff that they've had in a lot of the bigger games. I would also say maybe don't make it in like 3 different parts, which they did twice. Well, they did that with Fates and then Three
Fates,
Houses. Yeah, that's it's just way too easy to overdose on Fire Emblem that way, So I appreciate that this game was just one story. That's it, and then it's done.
yeah.
And we can ignore the post game. That didn't happen.
Oh, it was just pointless. I tried to, and then I'm reading online. Oh yeah, the dungeon's like 10 stories, 10 floors deep. I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. I want to see what's on the end of this, but yep, we're done. I saw the credits. The credits took half an hour.
See, that's to me is like, if you show me credits, I'm out. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, I saw the credits. Yeah. That's the end of the game. I'm sorry. I'm good. I'm out.
Look. Marvel movies have ruined me. If I see credits, I'm like, okay, I've got to hang to the end. There's going to be something. And you want to, because you're asking Rich about what the next Fire Emblem, what you'd ask Intelligent Systems. Mine would be, can you please make Codename Steam 2, because you ended that on a cliffhanger, and I need to know what happens to President Abraham Lincoln. That is not fair that you end on that. And look, if you, I could spoil that game goes places. And it is technically a Fire Emblem game, because if you've got the Fire Emblem amiibos, you can play with just them, and they are absolutely broken in that game.
That's what makes it a Fire Emblem game.
Intelligent Systems, you said, eh?
Sorry, yeah, it's Intelligent Systems.
Okay.
It just, I'm so, just that game when it got announced, I'm like, what, steampunk, public domain classic characters versus like HP Lovecraft themed monsters, and there's a mech that looks like Abraham Lincoln and it's comic book styled. Yes, this is my game. And the fact it sort of just failed was like, that's not fair. I wanted this to be a series, and then it ends on a cliffhanger with Abraham Lincoln. I'm not even American, but I know he's awesome. You know.
Well, you never know. You know, Nintendo has so much money just like falling out of their coffers that maybe intelligent systems that somebody just sneakily makes a sequel on their spare time and releases it without Nintendo realizing it.
It's funny because of how well Awakening did, and then they seem to want to go all in on Fire Emblem, and that's why we got Tokyo Mirage Session was sort of meant to be a bigger thing than it was, and it's weird. I think Intelligent Systems was trying to do stuff outside of Fire Emblem, but nothing they sort of really tried hit the way they wanted to.
Yeah.
So they just keep getting drawn back to just doing more Fire Emblem and maybe Paper Mario.
Mm-hmm. Have either of you played Valkyria Chronicles? I think you have, David, right?
I have, yeah. That's the one where it's kind of like World War II-ish, I guess, or like you're
yeah, something like that. Yeah. You played fake Europe, and there's tanks and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and you actually get to like aim guns and shoot characters and stuff. Yeah.
That's a fun one. It reminds me of Fire Emblem a lot, that series, but very different combat, but the same sort of
similar premise though, like that tactical. Like you got to put your characters in. It's like a grid based, and then there like you can hide them around corners and behind things. And
okay,
I really enjoyed
to play up to the meme. That is Codename Steam. It is exactly like that. It is. It's about Overwatch. It's about hiding behind corners. It's about this grid, and you can sort of move and you aim your shots. It is that.
I said that just to piss you off.
No. And look, I've tried Valkyria Chronicles. I've got that and 4 on the Switch, and I think whatever the PSP one was.
I was gonna say I own 2, 3, and 4. I just haven't gotten around to them yet.
I do want to. It is. I have played a little bit of the Switch one. I think it's a game that I know that if I really got into it and it clicks, it's going to click hard with me because that's like I wasn't expecting to love Unicorn Overlord as much as I did last year until I just wanted to play something new. Which that just I think I still maybe prefer that over the Fire Emblems I've played, but I think that's just because of that's more of a gameplay style I sort of click with.
Yeah. Now I will play Codename Steam at some point. I promise.
Okay. If you do, I may stop mentioning Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. Can't guarantee it, but it would be a possibility.
Just the prospect of never hearing Pocket Edition again might be worth putting this on up on the backlog. So I guess for me, like for Fire Emblem, like so you know, at some point I'm going to get to the end of like have played them all probably next month, but I kind of hope that Fire Emblem ends up in like a Mario and Legend of Zelda style where there's like two competing paths of styles of games. Like with Mario, you've got like the 3D and the 2D. I guess Legend of Zelda is the same way. Like you got your 3D and 2D. I would love if there's, you know, because I don't think Nintendo's going to give up on the Persona style Fire Emblem now that they've made a crap ton of money on that one. So I think that's going to be there. But I kind of hope that maybe every other game they go back to a traditional style. Because even playing these, like I'm finding myself gravitating more towards the older games. You know, like Shadow Dragon. I really like Valentia is my number one Fire Emblem so far of the 6 that I played. Shadow Dragon's number 2, and that's literally the remakes of the first 2 games. so like I've definitely have feel more towards these traditional style of where there's like, you know, a set story, set characters. There's no like avatars. There's no romancing or relationships or whatever. Like those are my bread and butter of the Fire Emblems, but. You know, I still enjoyed Awakening and enjoyed Three Houses. So it's not that I wouldn't play them, but I definitely hope that they sneak them in. Even the fact that the traditional ones seem to be shorter too than these other ones is kind of a bonus. Where it's like, if they're going to give us a 3-path, 200-hour, 3 houses style Fire Emblem, then just kind of sneak in a 20-30 hour one next. Which they might
Yeah.
be. I guess maybe Engage is supposed to be that. Like maybe that was the intention, where it's like, okay, here's 3 houses, now here's Engage, which is a little more traditional, and I'm assuming we'll
And
probably end up, the next Fire Emblem's going to be a 3 houses style, I would imagine.
well,
I mean, we
I
all
hate to
play a
say
lot
it,
of
David,
RPGs.
but I hate to say it, David, but maybe that's why Engage didn't sell so well.
Yeah, there's the traditionalists like us. There's just not
We're a
enough of
dying
us out
breed.
there, I guess. Yeah,
I
we're a
think
dying
that's
breed.
I think that's why I like Awakening the most, because it is sort of that almost middle ground to what Three Houses became and the traditional stuff, because you do have the relationship stuff, and oh boy, does that play a lot into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Then getting the children and all that stuff. And then you're figuring out, okay, who am I pairing? And I don't want anyone to be single, and I want to make sure they click. So I spent way too much time thinking about that. But it's not like you're devoting a lot of time to it. And it did result in a lot of. I really did like. I think I missed in Echoes was that I could, in Awakening, pair people up for battles, so you could sort of make these
Oh
good
yeah.
combo units. Or like you have a slow unit and you pair them up with a Pegasus Knight, and then you can travel them across the map and then switch around. So it's the slow unit that gets attacked first. I did sort of miss that level of planning and strategy. But like as you said, I do also appreciate the shorter games, because we play so many RPGs, and I don't want everything to be a 2-hour Xenoblade epic. It is
Yeah.
nice to have these. Hey, give me 15-hour JRPGs, and I'll be happy.
Well, at
Just to
least
break up
Awakening was only
everything.
one path. Like, there
Yeah.
was the relationship stuff, but you only needed to play once. One of the funny things with Awakening too is, as someone who has watched both Back to the Future and Hot Tub Time Machine, I had to see if you could romance one of the children of the future with one of the parents of the past, and
Yeah.
yes, it did, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious to see this like 20 something future kid conversing with their child that came from the same time frame, and me sitting there going, how does this work? Like, I don't understand. How did I guess it's
Because
just one of those like time things where it's just like, just go with it, I guess, is the thing. So
Fates
Mm-hmm.
had children in it as well, but it did some really dumb. I don't know. Oh, I should spoilers actually. Sorry, I don't know if you're there yet.
yeah, I haven't hit that point in birth rate yet,
Okay,
so
okay.
Okay.
You'll see.
yeah.
Oh
I
boy.
expect
Oh
you to
boy.
rant about it
Okay.
in the Fire
Yeah,
Emblem Hangout.
yeah. Maybe that's where we should end the episode as well. So
Sorry.
all these fun discussions we're having in our Discord channel, which you can find if you go to thethirstymage.com. At the top there's a link to our Discord channel. So we specifically now have a Fire Emblem hangout where it started off as the Valentia RPG Club channel, but because there's so much Fire Emblem going on, it's now evolved. It's classed up. We've used a Master Seal to turn it into the Fire Emblem Hangout. So we're having fun chatting about Fire Emblem games. So anyone out there who's listening who wants to join in on the chat, we've actually had a few newbies coming into the channel now based on the Fire Emblem discussions. So we invite everyone to come into to have a chat about that, and continue on with some. We have some other RPG clubs going on. Expedition 33 is ongoing as we speak, and by the time this is released, we'll probably have a Cyberpunk 2077 RPG club channel set up, because it's funny with the Switch 2 coming out, it seems like a lot of people are choosing Cyberpunk 2077 as their secondary game, I guess. I think a lot of people are picking up that Super Mario World bundle, but then their second game is the Cyberpunk. So it seems like a good timing to do that for the RPG club.
Because it's the only physical game that actually at launch
Yeah,
that
that's
comes with
true.
the whole game on the card. Everything else seems to be a key card.
Yep, that is true. and it's been Cyberpunk is a pretty big game that's hasn't been on a. I would not even want to see what Cyberpunk how to try to get that on the original Switch. They couldn't get PS4 to work. There's no way in hell that they would have got a Switch version to work. So I still laugh at. I think my brother tried to pick it up for PS4, and his character was like a skeleton or something. And he was like, "This, like, I don't even know why I paid money for this." So yeah, I guess we'll wrap that up for the Valentia chat. Like I said, plenty more episodes. This last episode would have been Shadow Dragon. It hasn't released as we're recording now, but Shadow Dragon was the past episode, and so we have got the two original Fire Emblems back to back, and more to come along as we go throughout the year. But I want to thank both Rich and Daniel for joining me for this discussion. It was a fun playthrough. I apologize for blowing through the game before you guys really had a chance. It was one of those things where like I didn't even realize I was blowing through the game as quickly as I was.
I was trying to take it slow, and then I'm at the end of chapter 2, I think, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, I finished," and I'm like, "Huh? What?"
I think there was one point I asked, like, "Hey, where is everybody?" And they're like, "Well, I'm about halfway through Act 3," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm about 3 Fire Emblems down after this." So, I just finished up Path of Radiance. I'm almost done Shadow Dragon.
It's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, that's I've been bitten by the Fire Emblem bug. What can I say?
I just finished Yakuza, and I'm like, oh, I really want to play all this series now. Thank God, the only one I would be able to play for any time soon would be Zero. So
yeah,
so I could see myself doing that.
Just wait. You get through the Yakuzas, but then you still have Judgment and Lost Judgment, which are incredible games as well. I really enjoyed. I like potentially better than Yakuza. Potentially.
Oh, look, Like a Dragon, the turn-based ones is the ones I really want to get to, but I've got to wait.
Oh yeah, those are good though. Yeah, for sure. But alrighty, I guess we'll wrap this episode up for this one. I want to thank you guys for joining me, and again, everyone, we'll see you out at the Discord. But otherwise, we'll see everyone out at the next Thirsty Mage. Bye for now.
Glad to talk about Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, in that order.
Yeah, sorry.